Okay, hi everyone, welcome back, and in this update we are going to check out Jasmy's price chart, and I am going to be the first one to admit this and also apologize for this. I did not expect such a strong move on the downside before a decent bounce, maybe something like this. I mean, sure, if you go back and check out the previous video that we did about Jasmy, we were right around these areas and we were like, well, okay, it seems like that we are having a bit of a correction structure, potentially in form of an ABCDA triangle, and we can expect another move on the downside. But after this move, we want to see a bit of a decent bounce, and then we are going to check out the shape of this move on the upside, and based on it we can make a decision whether in like very short term we are bullish or not. And as you can see, yeah, okay, we did get a move down, but we didn't really get that bounce. We continued our move down, and in it, as you can see, yep, we absolutely took this important low about, let's say, 0.78 of a cent. Now, why is this important? I think you know what I'm about to say if you are a regular viewer of the channel. You see, in terms of Elliott's waves, if you want to argue that we have hit the lows, then okay, off of the lowest low, let's say in this region, you have to be able to find a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside. This specific count is called an impulse. Rules for it are, we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4, and in any kind of 5 wave or wave 3 should not be the smallest wave. And in terms of the sub waves, you know it, we're gonna have 5 wave up into wave 1, 3, and 5. And for our corrections, we can consider different possibilities. Let's say, yeah, okay, WXY for our wave 2, and maybe an ABC structure for wave 4. Now, let's go on the live chart and see what is going on. And in the previous video, the idea was that hopefully this is going to be a 5 wave up followed by a correction down. And if this was supposed to be the case, then okay, from these areas, that's why actually we said we want to see a decent bounce in Jasmy, and we didn't get it. And the more important point in my view is this: if we want to, for example, around these areas start going up, then okay, building a bullish setup for that process is going to take some time. And by a bullish setup, I'm talking about having a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then followed by that maybe a correction structure on the downside. This is basically going to be some choppy, boring price action, and it might actually go on your nerve. But unfortunately, guess what? The market doesn't really care about your feelings. The market does what it does. We are just here to analyze it. And sure, I do sound a bit bearish right now, but I want to actually argue that in Jasmy, maybe this move down is a decent opportunity. And that's why as we go down and down and down, I'm actually starting to buy Jasmy coin in like very, very short amounts. Like, do not get me wrong, Jasmy coin by no means is like one of my larger holdings, absolutely not. But I do think this actually has an interesting chart, and I do think that we are going to get soon a good move on the upside. Why is that? Well, I got a couple of reasons for it. First things first, in terms of Elliott's waves, if you want to say that we do actually have this insane shadow, and by the way, this chart is from TradingView itself. You can also check out maybe Jasmy USDT from Binance, maybe even Jasmy USD from Binance. In all of those charts, we do actually have these shadows. Well, okay, since off of the lows, you are able to find a 5 wave followed by that possibly a correction structure down. Maybe you are able to argue, yeah, you know what, this is a bit of a bullish setup and we are going to get a move on the upside soon. So I guess that can be one reason for why I'm buying Jasmy coin as we go down. Now, I actually do have another much more important reason, and that one, you guessed it, it comes down to what is happening in terms of classic TA, meaning support and resistances. And as you can see, we finally got to this unbelievably important cluster of support areas. And note that I said this is a cluster of supports, meaning it consists of a couple of very, very important regions, and chief among them are two. Number one is actually around the higher band of this region, basically around the current price. I think it was between 0.7 to about 0.75 of a cent, and the other one is actually about the lower band of this region around, let's say, half a cent area. And sure, between these two areas we also do have a couple of important supports, but those are actually mainly from daily time frames. However, these two important supports are from weekly charts, and I think they do actually have quite a bit of validity. And even according to like the worst possible scenario that I have in my mind in Jasmy, I don't really think that we are going to, for example, from the current point, get a straight move on the downside in order to break all of these levels all at once. I don't really think that's actually realistic. In a better scenario, I think we may even continue our move down for another 10 to 15%, but then because these are such important regions, one way or the other, I do think that we are going to get a bounce. And when we get this bounce, okay, we are going to talk about the shape of it and see whether this can be the beginning of something, or maybe it's just going to be a bit of a dead cat bounce. One way or the other, if I buy Jasmy as we go down in this phase, when we get a move on the upside, well, I'm going to do probably two things. Number one, I'm actually going to hold the majority of my positions. And number two, I'm actually going to get out of, let's say, like a very small portion of my position in order to essentially get my position risk free. So this, my friends, is one very important reason for why I would like to buy Jasmy as we go down and down and down. Now, let's go on some higher time frames, and every now and then I feel like that we should actually remind ourselves why we are looking optimistic in Jasmy. You see, in my view, in Jasmy, we do have off of the lows a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up, followed by that. In my view, this is actually most likely a correction structure down, which will get confirmed when we get a move on the upside and take this important high right in here about, let's say, 2.2 cents region. Now, if this is truly 5 wave up followed by a correction down, the next move is actually going to be a rather big and explosive one on the upside in order to at least take the highest high in here for the first target about, let's say, 5.5 cents area. And then I think we are actually going to go probably quite a bit higher than that. But you know what? Right now, it actually sounds really, really stupid talking about those insane numbers. For now, let's just say this. The overall structures in Jasmy, despite even the recent move on the downside, in my view, are still very much looking bullish and optimistic. It's just the fact that in the short term, maybe our move down is going to continue a little bit. And I forgot to tell you this. Let's go on Coinbase's chart. And why do I care about this? Because this is basically the only chart which in it, as you can see, we don't have in here those insane shadows on many other exchanges. Now, if you want to go according to Coinbase's chart, I guess you can actually, as opposed to a WXY, possibly entertain the idea of having an ABC in form of, excuse me, let's just take this one, okay? In form of a zigzag down. This can be 5 down into A, maybe like an A, B, C, D, E, a triangle structure into wave B, and then another move on the downside into our C leg. And again, even this one suggests, since we are right now around this very important support area, okay, one way or the other makes sense to expect some sort of a bounce. And by the way, I don't really think that this bounce is going to happen specifically for Jasmy coin. No, in a lot of altcoins, and also I would say for that matter, at least right now in Bitcoin, we have gotten some very much strong moves on the downside, and I think we are right now at least way too much overextended. So I'm going to argue probably soon in BTC and in a lot of altcoins, including Jasmy, we are going to see some good moves on the upside. And then again, two scenarios are going to happen. Either this is going to be the beginning of like a magnificent move up, which, well, great, because I'm buying Jasmy around the lows, I'm going to make a good amount of money. Now, according to the other possibility, this is going to be just a bit of a dead cat bounce, but the bounce itself has to be large enough to actually fool a lot of investors into believing that, yeah, you know what, maybe this is actually the beginning of something absolutely insane. So one way or the other, we are, I think, going to get hopefully soon a bit of a move on the upside. And when we get it, again, I'm going to hold the majority of my position, but at the same time, I am going to get sort of like, let's say, a small portion of it in order to get my position to risk free. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Jasmy coin. Anyway, If you found any value in my content, I would really appreciate if you like this video and consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And if you want more, maybe you want a complete analysis for your own specific crypto, or maybe you want to learn some decent TA in order to be able to make good money in the markets, you can become a member and ask me anything you want. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.